For days, the world believed US-Iran conflict had entered a quieter phase. A ceasefire was in place, diplomacy had resumed, and hopes of de-escalation were beginning to grow. But now, that calm has been shattered. Fresh airstrikes, missile attacks, new sanctions, and a rapidly escalating war of words. All of it has raised one crucial question. Are we witnessing the collapse of a ceasefire or the beginning of a much larger crisis in the Middle East? Just days ago, diplomacy appeared to be gaining ground. Indirect talks had resumed. Both Washington and Tehran were publicly speaking about reducing tensions. It wasn't peace. But it was perhaps the closest the two sides had come to stepping back from a wider confrontation. That optimism didn't last. Today, military action has once again overtaken diplomacy. In fact, after the latest rounds of strike, US President Donald Trump declared that the ceasefire with the Iran was over. Defending the operation, Trump said the US had struck what he described as very dangerous people inside Iran. His remarks marked a significant shift, suggesting that Washington no longer sees the ceasefire as holding, even as the possibility of future negotiations remain open.
To me, I think it's over. I don't want to deal with them anymore. They're scum. You know what scum is? They're scum. They're sick people. They're led by sick people. And they're vicious, violent people. And if they had a nuclear weapon, they'd use it. As far as I'm concerned, it's over.
Which brings us back to the same question. What changed? Well, according to US, everything changed after 3 commercial ships were attacked in the Strait of Hormuz. Washington alleges Iran was responsible. Calling the attacks a violation of the ceasefire, the US launched one of its biggest military responses in the recent weeks. More than 80 Iranian military targets were struck, including missiles facilities, drone infrastructure, radar systems, and positions linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. But here's where the story becomes far more complicated. Iran rejects the accusation entirely. Tehran says it never attacked those ships. Instead, Iranian officials argue that the US state violated the ceasefire first by launching large-scale strikes and tightening oil sanctions. In other words, both countries now claim they are retaliating. Both insist the other side escalated first. And that the disagreement is exactly why diplomacy is rapidly losing ground. At first glance, this may look like another round of retaliation, but the bigger picture tells a different story. This isn't simply about missiles. It's about deterrence. The US wants to demonstrate that attacks on international shipping or even alleged attacks will invite an overwhelming military response. Iran, meanwhile, wants to show that strikes on its territory will not go unanswered. Neither side wants to appear weak, and that creates a dangerous cycle. Every retaliation invites another retaliation, making de-escalation increasingly difficult. Another worrying development: the conflict is no longer confined to Iranian territory. Following the US strikes, Iran launched missiles and drones targeting US military facilities in the Gulf, saying it was acting in self-defense. The theater confrontation is widening. Military bases, commercial shipping, regional allies, all are becoming part of the conflict. And that's increasing fears that what began as a bilateral confrontation could spill across the wider Middle East. So, the question is the war with Iran back on? The answer isn't straightforward. Neither Washington nor Tehran has declared all-out war. Both still appear to be calibrating their military responses. But what is clear is this: the fragile pause that had created space for diplomacy is now under severe strain. And every new strike makes a return to negotiations that much harder. Which brings us back to where we began. This isn't just another headline about missiles or airstrikes. It's about a ceasefire that appears to be unraveling. It's about a region where diplomacy is giving way to deterrence. And it's about a conflict that could affect far more than just United States and Iran. Because if this cycle continues, the consequences won't stop at military bases or national borders. They could ripple through global energy markets, international trade, and the stability of entire Middle East. The question now isn't simply who struck first. It's whether the latest escalation marks a temporary flare-up or the beginning of a far more dangerous chapter in one of the world's most volatile rivalries. For more such insightful coverages, keep watching DNA. This is Ritu.